to another episode of Worthy of Rescue. In this podcast, we bring a voice of truth into your life. To those that are hurting and broken, we bring hope and a word of healing. Today we have returning guest. She's a Christian, a wife, an entrepreneur, and also the author of Pretty Much Everything You Try Doesn't Work. How to Get Through the Disappointment You Never Expected. Welcome, Marian McSpadden. How are you today?
Hi, Marianne. I'm well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us again. I know today that you want to share with our listeners how to heal from a broken heart.
Well, I'm one who understands a broken heart. Sexually assaulted when I was 4 years old and didn't have understanding adults around me at that time who knew how to help me. And at the age of 34, the awakening came where the deep burden, the emotional pain I was carrying finally got a voice. And I knew deep, heavy oppression, depression 24/7. Didn't know I was depressed. But when that awakening came and God stepped in and revealed his love to me, it was the most sweet, precious thing that I treasure and value to this day because my heart didn't know love. I did know love through some of my nieces, but there was such an ache and such an emptiness in there. And so that experience I had brought me to the beginning of the healing. And I began to recognize how I had continued to hurt throughout all my teenage years, my school years, my teenage years, my 20s, and into my early 30s. And that when that healing began, the level of pain my heart knew, even joy was pain. It was a very conscious decision to follow the Lord, to believe his word. And I even early in that journey got to understand through a book on Hinds' Feet on High Places that the Lord is my strength and he will make my feet like the deer's feet. I identified with the allegory in the book of being much afraid. And so as I started on that journey of saying yes to God, yes to his promises, it was a journey. It was a journey that brought many new opportunities to me, many opportunities to grow and heal. At the same time, many disappointments continued on my journey. And then learning my identity, because who I identified as before was not who I was, not who God created me to be.
No.
So I had to learn a new identity in God.
So that was a journey of abuse, a journey of brokenness, but then a watering and a healing and a shedding of what you thought you were into who God really created you to be.
Exactly. I had to learn, and I didn't know who I was, so I asked God to make me all he wanted me to, that he created me to be, because I did not know with that current mindset and my current experiences. So it is exciting when you say yes to God, but it also can be a ride that will take you through a path that separates us from the things that we no longer, that never served us, but they were our norm.
Yes.
And I think also it's fair to observe there's many different levels of brokenheartedness. We can feel brokenhearted because a divorce, it can be a health situation, it can be a loss, it can be a business loss, it can be a tragedy, it can be, as minor as dropping grandma's favorite dish that was her great grandma's and it can't be repaired, it's broken, it was glass and it's broken.
Yes.
That's a minor heartbreak, but it's still, it hurts. Why did I do that? I didn't want to do that. And so I think as we all are individuals, we will respond to different heartbreaks differently based on who we are, how we respond to situations, and who comes into our space. Because what I found was, for myself, I had a tendency to become a doormat to other people, not know that I had rights, not know that not everybody was going to be for me when they said they were. You know, it
Yes.
was many lying voices continued to show up in my life that I would then believe. And then with time, it was like, these people are not really for me. And my
No.
heart was so soft and tender because I was heartbroken. And in that
Yes.
healing process of God coming near, I was very tender.
Yes.
And I could feel deeply. I could know God's love deeply. And I could also hurt deeply when I was disappointed, because that was my responding way, was to feel and to know. And it's hard for me to imagine that I was as vulnerable to those familiar patterns as I was. And I think it doesn't matter whether we come out of an alcoholic situation. I came from a religious system that had taught me a lot of things that I no longer identify with. Not everything was bad about the system, but there were
Right.
things that were. And if we come from an alcoholic situation where there is so much hurt and pain around it, or it doesn't matter what the situation is, we all have to be very open to allow God to shine his love. Is really what it is. It's his love, because he wants so much more and has so much more, but I couldn't see very far. But I had his promises to hold on to. And to Psalms 18:33 also says, he makes my feet like the feet of a deer and sets me on my high places. So the Lord has high places provided for us. And when we're going through the suffering, when we're going to the loss, the pain, that high place can be our hope, even though at the moment we don't see it. We can't understand how it could possibly be when that person's no longer in our life. And we love that person. That was a very important person, but they're gone. Those are very, very deep heartbreaks. And the other thing, Marianne, that I've had to learn through my experiences is the Lord, and I didn't believe I could get to this place, but I'm getting closer to it, that the Lord is the fullness of everything that I need. He has placed us here with a heart to, love children, to love our parents.
Yes.
Sometimes we don't have good parents or we don't know who our parents are, whatever it is, or parents that nurture us. So it can be a painful experience, but deep in our heart, most people have that desire to connect with, the generation before. And then we also have the desire to connect with children. And our children can cause us grief too. I experienced the grief of not having children. So there's many ways that we can grieve on both ends. But the Lord has promises, and his word says that he will make me strong. The Lord is my strength. He will make my feet like deer's feet that can leap from place to place in the high places. So with that sight of, this is the Lord's promise, and there's many other promises in the Bible. It is so full of good promises.
Yes.
But this was one that touched my heart when I first awakened, and I grabbed a hold of it. But then as the journey continued, sometimes I lost my way. I lost sight. And that is what the enemy wants us to lose hope. And that is a lie. If we cannot identify with that lie, because I remember there was a moment, like several years into the journey, I felt like I had dived into the deep waters, left everything to follow God, and I came up out of the water empty-handed. There was nothing in my hand. That was a lie of the enemy.
Right.
I had God. I had something, even though I wasn't seeing the fullness of what I was desiring in family and community and connections. I had God, and I am now getting closer to the place where I know anything external outside of me, whether it's my family around me, or the family I didn't have, or whatever money situation, if that changes who I am on the inside, I'm allowing something from the external to dictate my hope.
Yes. And my identity.
Correct.
Thank you so much for sharing, Miriam. I know that we have more that we can speak about on a broken heart. Our listeners come to the podcast worthy of rescue because of the brokenness in their past, the brokenness when they've walked away in their wilderness years. But we know that there is a God that pursues us. And let's extend this conversation and let's record another podcast and continue with this theme of healing from a broken heart. Thank you, dear listeners, for listening with us today. Remember that you are worthy of rescue and you are pursued by God.